let's talk about, for instance, the Seance, because this was interesting.
Yeah.
Because I was reading that, and when I was reading down the website, I was like, okay, I'm confused as to whether or not this is real or not, which I suppose is the purpose. Okay, because I saw something about that there's the Seance, and you're going to be contacting the. So that's one that is in your own a world of your own design.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
up until Saturnalia, we've only written our own material.
oh, okay. So let's talk about the world design then. So obviously you've got something to draw from if you're going to be doing something Cthulhu inspired, like we've done with what we've done. But was Seance something that was a brand new world?
Yeah, it's the rules are not necessarily written as far as what can be done. Seance sessions, it's an experimental form for us. It was our first LARP. We figured we wanted to run for a small group, so we aimed for like 15 people or so. We had a location, and we knew some of the things we wanted to achieve. And it was more about the characters that were in the room and what they were going to do when the host, who's the Seance, medium, when that person dies mysteriously. So they're in the middle of a seance and they croak, and now everybody has to decide what happens now. And surprisingly, out of the many times we run it, they do pretty much the same thing, which is they decide that they're going to bring the host back to life. I don't know why this is a reoccurring theme, but it's just something they do. And it's kind of the fun aspect of these LARPs in general is, it's a lot of play and fun, and sort of like once you establish a baseline about what you can do, and sort of explain to people, okay, here are the rules, right? As far as your interactions with each other, you can't do things to people, that they don't have their consent, right? And you certainly can't make a fireball with your own hands, so it's not real. You can't actually make a fireball. So the goal for the things you would have to achieve is to get people to agree with you about what's real, right? And to come up with ideas about how to like structure your play around those kind of elements. So seance sessions, people decided, oh yeah, it wasn't just that the host had a heart attack or something. It was, there's actually ghosts here. There's actually spirits. And they decided that was fun, because why else would you go to a seance? We kind of hinted at it for some characters and said, you're a ghost or something. And whether other people believe you or not, I mean, you could say to somebody, I'm possessing a body, right? But they don't have to believe you. There's no evidence you can show them that you're a ghost or otherwise. That's how we wanted to approach that design, so that there can be disagreements and agreements, and people can come to a story together, right, and decide what's interesting for them.
We'll contrast the Seance to the Saturnalia, but first let me make sure that is what I'm saying about if I came to a seance correct? And seance show. So you run this show, the experience.
Yeah.
So we would talk about the characters and whatever, and I'd fill out the survey and I would receive my character, because part of it sounds like an escape room part of it. So does that take place in one room? So I get my character, and then all right, now I'm my character, and now I'm going to walk into this room with the seance, and then your inciting incident, with seance to start, you said your inciting incident is going to be the person who's running the seance dies.
Well, there's a step before that. There's a step before you show up in the room.
Okay. All right.
And it's very important. That is the workshopping. And workshopping is something that is a standard for at least Nordic LARPs. I think it's becoming more of a standard in some of the other American LARPs I've seen. And it's a series of small workshops that get you introduced to the themes of the event, gets you comfortable with the other people and with improving. So it's teaching people improv techniques, and it's teaching them consent and calibration, mechanics, so that you can negotiate conflict together. It's a series of things that help you get into the experience. So you're not just cold starting this, like an escape room. They might give you a primer, but once you go in, that's it, right? It's just you and whatever. But this one, you get sort of warmed up first, and then you go in, and there's introductory scene, and then you have whatever is going to occur. So we usually build it like a typical theater play where you have like the acts. So we'll have clearly understood this is when it's going to end, so that people know where to aim and sort of adjust their role play to aim for a climax and to move their story along. So we usually structure things in that way for every single event that we do.
Yeah, it's also akin to horror movie pacing. in that, like, because we do write a lot of a horror or psychodrama type experiences where like everything is fine and people are interacting normally, and then weird stuff happens. Then there's like a cataclysmic event, and then really that's where really I'd say the participants take over, and that's where it kind of goes into the chaos of it. Usually, but the onboarding is important to get people in the state of mind, introduced to the universe, comfortable with like the rules and framework of the experience, and then it sort of devolves into the main part of the experience itself.
Because I saw things about like consent and things like that on the website. So, and I was wondering how that meshes with the immersive experience. So, like, for instance, if I show up and I don't have any problem with people touching me, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Is that something that I say then during the workshop phase? I'm like, if you want to touch me, I'm fine with it. Is that where you give consent? That way you don't have to disrupt the event itself? Is that when you talk about that kind of thing?
It depends on the experience, especially like post-COVID, it's a bit different, but like, in some experiences, casual touching is okay. Usually you only telegraph motions from the front, for instance, so someone can avoid your touch if they don't want to be touched, so it's a bit of reading those situations. But in a lot of cases for more intricate stuff, because like there aren't combat mechanics, because like, it's like you and I want to get into a fight and it's going to be stage combat or something like that, I would lean forward, and usually there's like a quick, like, hey, off game, like, do you want to get into a fight right now? Like, what are you comfortable with? And I've seen people kick down flights of stairs because they were like stage actors and knew how to like fall down a staircase, or like actual legitimate stage combat, to like just shouting matches, right? But it's because we always emphasize the calibration, because like we don't know where somebody is in the experience. Like if someone's not in the mood to be touched or get into a fight at that point, they have the opportunity to opt out, because there isn't really, because it is what you see is what you get. We sort of have to maintain that level of like consent and calibration. Most people I've seen are absolutely enthusiastic participants. Like, it looks super cool when people are like fighting for real in a LARP event. Like it's, it looks actually pretty dope. But it's that is a super important part of it. There's like for a vampire event, for instance, there's different ways you can feed. Like you can bite somebody's neck, you can bite somebody's wrist, you can put your hand on top of somebody's wrist and bite your own hand, right? You could put your hand on something, but negotiating that is super important, because it's close contact, but also like it looks pretty cool when someone, even if they're biting their hand on your neck, if you're like, like masking it, it looks like a vampire feeding. And so it adds really, I'd say, a ton to the immersive aspect of like what's actually happening at the event.
But is that like what you're talking about right there, where the feeding is about to take place? Is that negotiated there in the moment, or
yes.
Okay, yes. In the moment. Okay.
Yeah. For something like feeding, we'll have a mechanic that's like, off game feeding, and then you can specify like, use your hand on my neck, and then they would do that, right? Like it's like a super quick, like half second to a second negotiation. Like it's not like usually a prolonged. That's what the workshopping is for, is to get people comfortable with like off game, like I want.
Okay, so quick hand on neck, and then people know what that is. Okay, then
some people are like, bite me,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. But no, like, but that's it. It seems clunky at first, but it really doesn't flow that way in the experience. It's actually a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds of conversation, and what the outcome of it is, where everyone's happy with how the scene generates, and like actually what it looks like to other people that aren't directly involved in the scene is pretty cool.
Okay, so let me just follow through with my last line of thought before we move on. So then we've done the workshopping, then I've got my character, and then I'm at the seance one, and then I come into the room. Okay, and then that's when it's on.
Yeah.
And does that one take place entirely within a room then?
That one does usually. It might be like 2 rooms. Where we've run it before, it's been 2 rooms, 3 rooms, like a coat room, and then a library, and then a main kind of area.
Okay, and how long does that last?
That one's usually, I think, about 4 hours. I think.
Yeah,
is that right? 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've run it, so I don't remember the exact runtime. It's shorter. It's meant to be done. You do it in like one day. It's a low lift. Anybody can show up and do it.
If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. It'll be greatly appreciated. And also, please check out The Cultists, the web series on this channel about modern-day D&D playing Lovecraftian cultists who just want to worship Cthulhu in a world full of people who just don't understand. Season 1 is on the channel now. But also, please check out my YouTube channel. I have over 200 videos on tabletop gaming and the sci-fi and fantasy genres. If you enjoyed this video, you'll likely enjoy many of them as well.